Hey, here we go. Hooray, hooray. Welcome. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Yep, we're recording. We're live. We're on Facebook. And I have Facebook open so I can answer and see any comments that come in from visitors, which would be awesome. Very exciting. So, yeah, feel free to say, pop into the comment section over here on Facebook and let me know you're here and where you're listening from. Okay, here we go. Have you ever stared at a blank page or canvas or screen and felt completely stuck? Or maybe you've started something but just couldn't find your way through? In today's episode of The Thriving Creative, we're tackling creative blocks, why they happen, how to move past them, and how to reconnect with your limitless potential. Because those blocks, they're not the end of the road, actually. They're the doorway to your next creative breakthrough. Let's dive in. Welcome back to The Thriving Creative. I'm your host, Gabrielle Senza, and today we're exploring one of the most frustrating yet universal parts of the creative process, creative blocks. Whether you're a writer struggling to find the right words, a visual artist stuck in a rut, or a performer doubting your next move, blocks happen to all of us. The good news, they're not permanent. In fact, they're often a sign that something new is trying to emerge. As the musician Brian Eno once said, whatever you now find weird, ugly, uncomfortable, and nasty about a new medium will surely become its signature. It's the sound of things trying to change. Today, I'll share practical techniques for overcoming those blocks so you can unlock your creativity and step into your fullest potential. Let's start by understanding what creative blocks actually are. A creative block isn't laziness or a lack of discipline. It's often a signal from your mind or body that something needs attention. Here are a few common causes. Fear of failure. You're afraid your work won't be good enough. Perfectionism. You're setting impossibly high standards for yourself. Burnout. You've been pushing too hard and need a rest. Or perhaps lack of clarity. You're not sure what direction to take. For me, one of the biggest causes of creative blocks has been trying to force something that doesn't feel aligned. It's like trying to push a boulder uphill. It's exhausting and doesn't get you anywhere. So here's the first mindset shift that's been helpful for me. Blocks aren't barriers, they're invitations to pause, reflect, and recalibrate. Now that we know what causes blocks, let's talk about how to move through them. Number one, you can change your environment. Sometimes a fresh perspective is all you need. Step outside, move to a different room, or even rearrange your workspace. You can take a cue from artist Tanya Bruguera, who often incorporates her surroundings into her creative process. Her work reminds us that the spaces we inhabit can influence our ideas. This has definitely been true in the places where I have created work, and especially installations for Invisibility Lab, but also like doing studio work. When I have a smaller space that, might be a little more precious and I have to keep clean, then the type of work I create in that space is going to be very different than the work I'm able to do in a much larger open space where there might be a very big wall I can work on. And the floors might already be ruined from paint and other things happening in that space. So I don't have to have like concern for messing up the space if it's already messy and used in similar ways. Like the whole point is to make a mess in this space and to play. So this is this is something to think about in your own work, and especially when envisioning work that you want to be doing. um, that you might feel like your space isn't quite adequate for. So, for example, I have this beautiful studio on Railroad Street in Great Barrington, which have been in many, actually, most of my videos here on YouTube. And I love that space. I am so nourished in that space. I absolutely adore it. And I've created a lot of work in that space. What I haven't created there are paintings and drawings, which is really interesting because I, you know, I'm kind of known for paintings and drawings to some degree. And, there's some real wonderful aspects of working with my hands. And it's something I've been missing for actually years now. And that space, as great as it is, doesn't doesn't sort of present a space in it where I would feel comfortable painting. And, reflecting on it now, I'm thinking that there are some changes I could make, um, or that I could probably figure out how to make. I haven't made them yet. They're not really clear to me. But the point is, that space for me works really well for research, for photo editing, for video editing, for actually even recording has been fun there. Laying out my big data sonification, my invisibility lab data spreadsheet is gigantic. It's like 12 feet long, and that's just half of it. No, it's like a third of it. And so there are a lot of spaces to generate creative ideas and to develop my pieces, which has been amazing. And yet, for the last couple of years, almost 3 years now, since I got back from that amazing, life-changing expedition in Antarctica in 2022, I have really wanted to do some paintings that kind of capture the blue colors that I saw there and some of the incredible forms that the icebergs have, and some of the skies that I saw and some of the wildlife that I saw. And I've been wanting to do this for, like I said, almost 3 years. And whenever I picture doing that work, I've imagined having a totally blank space to work on, to work in, and with like very little visual noise and distractions, visual distractions, audios, audible distractions. So I've sort of been fantasizing about having a space where I could dedicate to painting and drawing. And I am delighted to say that I actually have that right now. I've been given this beautiful opportunity to take up residence in a brand new artist residency called the Nob Hill Artist Residency. And so I'm artist in residence, the first one in this space up here on Nob Hill. And it's it's been just so amazing. I cleared out this space and I rearranged it the way I want, and it is set up to support me in painting and drawing. And so I've already been able to start doing that, and I am having a blast with it. And I know I've been going on a lot about different things right now about the spaces we work in, and now what I'm up to, and I'll get to more of that as we move along in this episode. Okay. So let's continue. Let me get back to my notes here. I got very excited telling you about this residency. So, number two, this is just a review. These are techniques for overcoming creative blocks. So, the first one was change your environment. As simple as taking a walk or moving to a different room, which is like what I was talking about, being able to work within different spaces. Sometimes there's certain kinds of work that I really prefer to do in a coffee shop, or I used to before the pandemic, and I haven't quite found my way into doing that again, but I may. For now, I just kind of move into the sunshine or with the sunshine around the spaces that I'm in, kind of like a cat. You know how cats like to sleep in the sunshine, um, and just bask in that heat. So that's kind of what I do in my space. So whenever I can sort of be in the sunshine, that's where I like to be. So anyway, another way you can break the a creative block when it comes in is like experiment with constraints. So this is really fun. what this is about is giving yourself a limitation, like it might be a time frame, it might be a single material or a restricted color palette. I've actually tried all of these and I love them. I love working this way, especially when I'm kind of not clear about where I want to go next with my work. And I want to give myself permission to just play and make a mess. So, as I've spoken about before on this podcast, is that constraints can really actually spark creativity by forcing you to think differently. So, it's a pretty fun experiment, and I really hope you'll give it a try. Uh, there's a filmmaker, Greta Gerwig, who talked about how limitations of budget and time have led to some of the most creative decisions she's had to make in her films. So you can check her out, Greta Gerwig. I'll put her name in the show notes. And Tanya Bruguera, and you can check out like how do these limitations of space or time or whatever uh, influence and inspire new work. Okay, number three, you can try a new medium. So this is something I'm doing right now, actually, which is pretty fun. Um, I am wanting to create a 3D sculpture, like some test sculptures of icebergs, similar to the forms that I saw in Antarctica. And so, because I just want to play around with the idea and the forms and stuff, I have taken a whole bunch of tea bags that I've been saving for years, just dried tea bags after I use them. I just put them in after they dry out, I put them into this container and I've been saving them for years. I don't know how many I have. I haven't saved all of my tea bags. Obviously, that would be a lot. But I think this probably has maybe at least 50, maybe 100 tea bags. I don't know. I haven't counted them. But anyway, I dipped them in white gesso last night and hung them all up to kind of dry. And some of them were intentionally put together so that the wet gesso would also, form and group them together. And I had them all hanging off the edge of this table where I was doing this last night to dry, thinking they'd, just dripped onto the paper. But this morning, actually, I came down and they were like all in a clump on the paper. They had fallen completely. All but one tea bag had fallen onto the floor, which thank goodness I had actually put down some paper in case that were to happen. No, actually, it's to catch the drips. So it also caught the tea bags. So anyway, that's an example of trying new materials or playing with certain materials in order to play out an idea or to experiment with an idea. And I thought that would be fun to share. It's a totally wacky uh, material choice. And I just wanted to see what would happen if I gave it a shot. So we'll find out. Maybe it'll be totally worthless and I'll end up in the trash, or maybe not. Maybe it'll end up in a gallery. Who knows? But the point here is like this idea of trying a new medium. And for example, like I'm looking at my notes again, musician and composer Esperanza Spalding faced a block in her songwriting some time ago. And what she did is she turned to making visual art for inspiration. And so switching mediums can free you from old patterns and open new doors. So I definitely encourage you to try things out in that way. Um, Try a new medium. That's what I did years ago in Rome. I just went to making works on paper, tracing paper actually, with just red cadmium paint. And I used only that color for over 200 drawings or paintings that I did with this cadmium red paint. And that series is all part of my Seeing Red series, which ultimately became part of an artist book that I created in 1998, I think, called Amore e Roma, which is a beautiful palindrome, by the way, Amore and then Eroma. And so that's a fabulous project. I really love it because it's made up of these pieces that I experimented with doing in Rome when I was there, just changing up my color scheme, changing up the materials I was using. I had different studios, of course, as well. And so, uh, yeah, so that artist book is available probably on my website, or you could always contact me if you wanted to learn more about it. It is currently also in the collection of the Whitney Museum and the Museum of Modern Art in their artist book collection. So I think that's pretty cool. I like that they're there. Anyway, so let's move on. Number four, you can, this is techniques for overcoming creative blocks. You can definitely, number four is take the pressure off. Now, everything you make has to be a masterpiece. Doesn't have to be something you can sell. It doesn't have to be something you're willing to show anybody. And give yourself permission to create something totally messy, silly, or purely just for fun, like I was talking about with these tea bags making up my iceberg that I'm creating. It's just for fun, just to see what it looks like and what comes up as I think about these. Oh, and going back to the red pieces, the seeing red pieces I did in Rome, what's interesting about that series is that it also inspired a whole new series of small sculptures that I created, also with red, cadmium red paint, actually cadmium red and caustic paint. So the red waxy stuff were like filling these eggshells, um, also encasing an egg carton, and then there were like lots of little white eggs inside that had my like short personal stories about different experiences I had growing up uh, with sexual predators that were in my life, for example. That's what that piece was about. It's called Predicaments. And you can imagine the spelling, perhaps. And so if I hadn't given myself permission to just play and make a mess in Rome with new materials, the tracing paper, the cadmium red, the new palette to use, I may not have ever gotten to those sculptural pieces, which were very important pieces, very seminal pieces in my career. So so that's another reason to explore and allow yourself to really play. Okay, number five on the techniques to break through creative blocks is reflect on your why. So if you think about that, when was the last time you connected with the reason you create? Whatever it is you're creating, if it's music or dance or paintings or a new series of work, like I was just talking about in Rome, just revisit your purpose to reignite your passion. Like what I was doing in Rome, for example, was sort of my commentary slash observations and feelings around how sexuality was uh, out there in the world, like how I was witnessing it in the media and in social situations among other humans, my own experiences, reflecting on my own past experiences as a kid, and things like that. And I found, and what my big why was, not so much that I wanted to reveal my own story through my work, which is essentially what I was doing, but the reason why I was doing that is because I had found that when we share stories that are related to our own experience, and we share like sort of these vulnerable stories, these like really impactful things that might have happened in our lifetimes, good, bad, indifferent, whichever way, but for whatever reason you feel it's meaningful to share, that often gives people, other people, permission to share their own stories, which can be really, really big and healing. Or you may be holding up a mirror and you're allowing them to see themselves as a person in a way that they hadn't seen themselves before. Or you might represent a version that they could of a person that they could aspire to be, for example. So if I'd had all these experiences and nevertheless I was a very empowered person and felt very confident in the work that I have to share and the messages and the experiences I have to share in the world, then that could tell another survivor of sexual abuse that perhaps they too could achieve that kind of level of maturity and confidence and empowerment, and that it's not a done deal. Like if these things have happened to you in your life, it doesn't mean that you're going to always stay exactly where you are in your life. It's so helpful to see models, that we can aspire to be like. So that's been really a big part of why I do the work I do, and and also why I moved away from painting for a good portion of time now. It's like since 2001. So that's 24 years. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. It's a lot of years of not really painting a lot. Wow. I mean, I did some painting during that time, but I didn't realize it's been that long. Hmm. Well, and I guess that's sort of partly why I'm wanting to come back to painting, because there are things about paint that can't be expressed or felt uh, unless it's through a painting. I don't know if that makes sense the way I said it, because I kind of was finding my words as I was going along. Anyway, the point is, these are 5 techniques to break through your creative blocks. And what might be really helpful for you to ask yourself right now is, what's really blocking me? Is it perfectionism? Is it a fear of failure? Is it burnout? Have you been going too hard, pushing too hard? Or are you just unsure about what direction to go in? And do you have a lot of pressure on yourself to make the right decision? I definitely have had myself in that position over the years and at different times in my career where I felt like, oh, I've got time in the studio. I better make it worthwhile. I better make something that's I can sell, or that a gallery is going to want to take and sell to one of their clients. So taking that pressure off is really super helpful, especially if you're having a creative block, because sometimes it's that pressure that's creating the block, right? So we need to remove the blocks. Uh, and in doing so, ask yourself also, what is one small step that I can take to move forward? Is it that walk? Is it putting a limitation on the work we're creating, or the materials we're using? There's so many ways to play with this. So, what's really blocking me right now, and what small step can I take to move forward? Okay, let's keep moving on. I'm I'm on my notes again here. So, okay, so here we are. Once you've worked through a block, how do you step into your fullest potential? Here are 3 possibilities. 1, embrace growth over perfection. So remember that every creative block is an opportunity to grow. And each time you work through one, you're building resilience and discovering more about yourself as an artist, and about what work wants to come through you. Right? So that's very exciting. Also, number 2, stay curious. Curiosity is your greatest tool. Ask questions, explore new ideas, and stay open to surprises. Curiosity is what leads to breakthroughs. We see evidence of this over and over again in art history and in the history of innovation, technology, science. All of these things was when people allow themselves to be open to surprises and explore new ideas and ask questions. Okay, number 3, this is really important too. And I know I talk about this on my channel a lot. Celebrate small wins, right? So every step forward, no matter how small, deserves acknowledgement. And I've actually taken to sort of tracking in note form what it is I'm doing throughout the day, because I can't tell you how many times I have looked back at the end of the day and thought, oh my God, what did I do today? I have been busy for the last 8 hours working, and I couldn't actually tell you what I was doing. Okay, I sent emails, I brainstormed some ideas, I um, avoided doing some other thing that I really was supposed to do, but I didn't want to do. How did I procrastinate that? How did I what was I doing instead of doing that thing. Um, in this case, for example, uh, it was reviewing my script for the podcast. It was checking my notes and those kinds of things. And that was preparing for the podcast. It wasn't really of procrastinating that, but I did kind of leave it to the last hour rather than like 2 or 3 hours ago. So during that time, what was I doing? Well, turns out because I'm tracking it, I was taking care of really easy tasks like a quick email here, um, uh, a quick text message there, all about moving things forward. So it's all relevant to my work and to supporting other people in their creative work as well, which are my passions, right? As a thriving creative, I love to support other thriving creatives, other or help other creatives thrive, um, so that we can all thrive together. So for me, stepping into limitless potential isn't about doing more, actually, it's about staying connected to what lights me up. And it's about noticing what lights me up, what takes energy away from me, what I'm resisting and avoiding, how I am procrastinating, what I'm procrastinating, right? These are really important pieces of information. So it's helpful to track it, keep a journal and check it out if that's helpful for you. Uh, I found that it was really helpful for me because it was so defeating to get through the end of the day and not be able to say what it was I'd worked on. Meanwhile, I knew that I had brought things forward and I got somewhere, but I wasn't clear about what it was I did. And that those things actually mattered because I couldn't get to, point A without doing all of these other mini steps that led up to getting A done. You know what I'm saying? And the same with going to point B. Sometimes I just look at what these big pieces are and I forget that there are all these other tiny pieces that make up the accomplishment of that next step. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I find really, really helpful to be able to notice that that's what I'm doing and that those tiny little steps also deserve to be acknowledged because I wouldn't be able to do A or B if I didn't do these tiny steps in between. So, pat on my back for doing it, pat on your back for doing the small things that lead to the big things. It's just a part of life, right? Okay, so let me take a sip. All right, here are 3 quick exercises you can try when you're feeling stuck. It's really, really popular, this one. Number 1, morning pages. So, popularized by Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way, this practice involves writing 3 pages of free flowing thoughts each morning. It clears your mind and sparks new ideas. I know so many people that have this as a regular morning ritual, and it's highly recommended if you've never tried it. Give it a shot. It's really beautiful. Check out The Artist's Way. You can get a copy on Amazon or from a bookstore or your favorite local bookstore and see what they have to say, what she says. It's really inspiring, like if you go through the whole book, or even if you just take one of the practices. I know a lot of people also that have just not even read the whole book, but they're so moved by just doing The Artist's Way uh, morning pages. So take what's useful, let go of the rest. These are just some ideas that have come to me and that I've experienced and that have helped um, other creatives and clients that I've worked with over the years. All right. Number 2 is you can play the what if game. I love doing this. This is really helpful for me. Ask yourself, what if I tried this? What if I combined these 2 ideas? What if I ignored the rules? Right? So that's a really fun game to play. I highly recommend it. You can do it in journaling. You can just do it on the fly in your studio. You can do it with your instruments. What if I tried reversing this chord? Or what if I tried this timing? Or what if I tried to put this effect on this sound? So there are so many ways to allow yourself to play and just unlock other aspects of creativity. All right, number three is the 20-minute rule. This is also a pretty fun way to go. So what you do is you set a timer for 20 minutes. You can do it on your phone or the old-fashioned kind of timer, and just commit to working on your project for 20 minutes. Especially good when you're working to do this with something you've been procrastinating for a good long time. So let's say that project is um, preparing the paints, for example, that you haven't used in a lot of years. This is something I just had to do recently. And this is one of those mini steps that goes towards one of the bigger steps. Like I can't actually do the paintings that I want to do until I've prepared my paints, until I've cut away the old dry skin on the oil sticks I use and peel them back and just, you know, prepare them for use because they have been sitting in a box for at least a dozen years, really not being used. And they're still in great shape, but the skin has to be pulled away so that then the soft paint is available to use. It's a very time-consuming process, but it's also one that I actually really love because it's pretty meditative, like I could just keep going on the task until all of the, all 40 or however many paint sticks I'm going to prepare are ready to go. So what's cool about that is if you set a timer, if it's 20 minutes or 5 minutes even, can be really helpful. But 20 minutes is a good safe one because 20 minutes will give you a substantial amount of progress. You can be amazed at how much you can get done in 20 minutes. And then the other cool thing about that is that once you're in it for 20 minutes, you kind of don't want to stop. So you can either choose to stop because you have to, you have some other obligation you have to go spend time on, or you just blow past that 20-minute mark and you keep going, keep working on the project and stay in the flow because once you've done that 20 minutes, you are pretty much in the flow if it's a longer duration task that you're up to or project that you're working on. So that's a really fun way. I definitely recommend that 20-minute timer idea because you'll be surprised. The hardest part is starting. And once you're in motion, the ideas will start to flow. It's quite fun. Okay, so I went a little longer today than I usually do. I guess I got pretty excited about sharing some of my own experiences and some of these ideas. And yeah, and that's why I do the show, is because I have been a practicing artist for dozens of years, since 1980 something, professional artists showing and exhibiting and making and creating and teaching and training and mentoring and all of these things. And so I want to share what has inspired me for other artists or other people who are looking to explore their own creativity and to help give permission to just play, just try things out. Don't be afraid of it. Don't take it so seriously. I have talked a lot about that on the show in the previous episodes, and I'll be talking more about it this season as we go through 2025. So, and if you have particular questions you want support on, you want me to answer, please go ahead and, you know, let me know. Let me know what's on your mind and what you'd like me to talk about. I would love that. So, yeah, so as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. Creative blocks aren't walls, they're stepping stones, right? Each one is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to uncover something new about your creative process. So go ahead and take a moment if you haven't done it already. What's blocking me lately? Ask yourself, what's blocking me lately? What's one small step I can take to move past it? We talked about a lot of them. You can refresh, you can rewatch, you can come up with your own strategies and ideas. Share them in the comments. I would love to hear them. And if you're ready to dive deeper into your creative potential, actually, you might want to join me for the Lunch and Learn workshop on creative vision mapping. It's happening this Friday, January 31st at 12 p.m. Eastern. And you can register at Eventbrite. I'll put the link in here on on the YouTube page and in the comment section of Facebook. And yeah, you are welcome to join me Friday, January 31st at 12 p.m. for the Lunch and Learn workshop on creative vision mapping. Together, we'll build a roadmap to help you align your artistic and financial goals for the year ahead. Details are in the show notes. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Thriving Creative today. If this episode gave you new tools to overcome creative blocks, I'd love to hear about it. I would appreciate it so much if you would share your thoughts in the comment section, leave a review, and pass this episode along to a fellow creative. And remember, your creativity is actually limitless. Play in all the ways you can imagine and check out what other artists do to break through their creative blocks. There are lovely books on the internet about this. There are probably videos about it as well. So check it out, talk to other artists, see what they do, try a whole bunch of different things to see what really works for you. Let me know. Yeah, let me know what's working for you and what doesn't work. I would love to hear it. There's nothing better than talking shop with artists, right? So I encourage you to do that. Keep showing up, stay curious, and trust the process. It's really all about the process. So until next time, stay inspired and keep thriving. I'll see you next week.